The Mavericks' run to the finals is obviously insanely impressive, but it becomes even more impressive when you remember that they were missing a key piece of their rotation for a large chunk of the playoffs. Maxi Kleber missed all of the OKC series and games 1 through 3 against Minnesota, and the fact that Dallas still made it to the finals is really impressive, but then to get this key piece back ahead of the championship round really makes you think about how much better they can be. And I think that's what makes Maxi Kleber the biggest X factor for the Mavs, because here's this big man who has shot 35% from 3 in his career, can stretch the floor, 6'10", has some size, but has a bit more switchability at the defensive end, and he hasn't looked great since coming back, but that's to be expected when you miss a few weeks and then you just get thrown into high-level playoff basketball. It hasn't looked, it's looked very rusty naturally, but I think if they can get something out of him, it could be big because, so for starters, playoff basketball, to me, like the way to succeed with playoff basketball, especially in today's NBA, is to have versatility. It's all about versatility, different options, and ideally you would love to have your best players be able to give you, those different options. You'd love to have everyone be super versatile, but if not that, you want to have different players with different skill sets. It'd be great if they all had all the skill sets. It'd be great if they could all do different things, but at the very least, you want one guy who could do this, one guy who could do that, so you have all these different cards to play. And Dallas didn't necessarily have that from the big man spot before Kleber came back, because you have Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, two centers who have done amazing work throughout these playoffs, but they both sort of play the same way. They're both rim running, lob catching, more paint oriented big men. And of course there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's always great to be able to have a different card to play, to sort of switch things up if that's what the situation calls for. And I think that's especially important against Boston, especially at the defensive end, where, assuming Kristaps Porzingis comes back in this series, and even if he doesn't, even if you go with Al Horford, Boston's going to stretch Dallas's defense out. They're going to play 5 out. All those guys can pass, dribble, and shoot. And it's not that I don't think Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford can do it. It's just not necessarily their strength. So I think they might struggle in that area. I think Gafford in particular might struggle a bit more in that space, and I think Boston can take advantage. And because everyone on Boston is so versatile, it's not like you could stick him on like a Derek White, because Derek White can easily go for 20. So it's going to be difficult to see those matchups, whereas Maxi Kleber, compared to a Lively or Gafford, I think could provide a bit more of that defensive versatility, can stay in front of those guys a bit more, can shuffle his feet a bit more, and I think that's going to be really important. And it's also going to be important potentially at the offensive end, where to be able to match Boston and go 5 out, because Boston might try and switch everything. So if you can stretch the floor and keep the paint open, that might do some damage. So I don't know what the Mavs are going to get out of Maxi Kleber, because he just came back from this injury, and because to just be thrown back, to return from injury and play any sort of high level basketball is really difficult. To come back and play Western Conference Finals basketball is really difficult, and then to go straight into this NBA Finals matchup is going to be very difficult for Kleber to just play minutes and shoot well and play well and play to the level that he can. But I think if Dallas can get anything out of him, I think it's going to be very crucial, and I think can really swing the series because of the different dimensions that he brings from the power forward / center position compared to a Lively or a Gafford. And I think having those other options against such a versatile, deep team like Boston is going to be very crucial to the Mavs in whether or not they can win this series.